Welcome back, everybody, to the Final How. And on this week's episode, we have on Perry Battin from Drury Outdoors. And Perry, along with the whole team over at Drury Outdoors, do a phenomenal job with predator management. We're going to talk about some raccoon trapping and some thermal coyote hunting. So let's jump right into it here. Perry, how we doing, man?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on here with me. I know you guys are probably just starting to get busy burning everything out there, aren't you?
Yeah, we actually I didn't know yesterday we went and prepped a burn and tilled in some burn lines and it was actually pretty wet in my opinion. I mean the grass was super dry, but I called dispatch to tell them address we were going to do a burn and she said, there's a burn ban on. So I said, well, we won't do a burn today then. But there was some high winds coming and I think that's why they put the burn ban on, but um it ought to be lifted now. It's pouring rain outside, so
Right. It kind of what we were speaking to earlier with the pouring rain, muddy conditions, and all that. How's that affecting your trapping you're doing?
yeah, me and Wade we ran pretty solid there for about 2 weeks and we did real well. We had good weather. It was kind of warmer temps and we were frozen enough in the morning to go run all our traps, but then, during the later part of the day it thaw out, which we was, done and had been to the traps, so we didn't make any ruts. But, we were really wet early and then we got into a solid period where we did run pretty hard and then we got, now we're good temperature wise, but it's so wet, can't drive and get to everything I'd like to get to. So, it's kept me from running as long as I'd like to run or, as many traps as I'd like to run. I mean, I could run right now, but I'd have to stay right next to the road culverts and, ditch pipes and stuff like that. But it's definitely affected us early because we normally get started right there after season and it wasn't frozen solid yet, or if it was so cold that we didn't trap at the beginning because it was every day was in the negative temperatures and after coming off a long deer season it's kind of hard to get out there in those kind of weather conditions. And the coons and everything, they don't do as well, they're kind of denned up as themselves and everything's kind of laying low in those temperatures when it's just, I mean, nasty cold. So
I know that's a huge part of why I reached out to you and see if you wanted to come on here because the it seems like trapping's starting to pick up again. More, you're starting to see more guys out there, and man, it from what I see, you kick ass on your trapping. I mean, it looks like you guys put a hurt on your coon numbers and all that. And how
yeah.
how have you seen over the past few years of the extensive trapping you're doing? How have you seen that affect like your turkeys or pheasants, or how are you seeing that help?
I mean, our turkey numbers on most of Mark's farms, the ones that we key in on, I would say, are just crazy. Um, we're blessed in Iowa here to have good grass habitat to begin with. There's big waterways and crop fields. Not all the tree lines are pushed out of areas, and our farms have a lot of CRP acres on them, so we've got good nesting habitat and all that turkeys and pheasants and every game bird needs. And then couple with, Wade and I last 2 years we were both, we'll split up and trap separate farms because we have enough to do that, and we'll trap together some days too. It's just kind of cover more cover more area with more traps, so you do more damage to the predators. The past 2 years, him and I have both been, right at 100 for coons. So, a little bit over, a little bit under. I think last year I was 98 and he was 107, I think is correct. So, you start taking those numbers off those farms and our gobbler groups in general and just our turkey numbers are, we've got some farms that got gobbler groups of 15 gobblers plus together. So it's, 2, 3 years of doing that, you really see the results. So it's really good.
What are some key areas that you look for somebody that's listening to this? It's maybe just starting to get into maybe say dog proofs. That seems to be the kind of
Yep,
that barrier to entry. What are some things you're looking for when you're going in on a farm to trap coons, particular?
for sure. I mean, the biggest thing I love especially this time of year, if it's wet outside, is road ditch pipes. They might lead into our farm and come from a different piece of ground. I've got a really good spot, a couple good spots where a road pipe goes underneath a road. It's got water in it, and it leads to one of our crop fields or next to one of our crop fields. And on the south end might be a cattle pasture. So you get a lot of diversity right there as far as what the coons have to eat and where they're traveling. Also, pipes, overflow pipes out of ponds that we have on the farms are always key, front side and back side, because they'll run the edge of the ponds, and you'll catch them there on the front side. And then on the back side where the water's flowing through, there's normally, some kind of little creek or stream that they spend a lot of time on. And then just your natural coon runs, whether it's next to a crop field, going to, a large grow a trees or a large maple bottom in a river or whatever, the landscape looks like. But from that bean field, cornfield, whatever crop field you've got, you'll see like a definite coon run that's going to a certain type of, trees that they're denning up in the winter. And those are just also killer. I would say those are my top three are two different style pipes, whether it's a road pipe with water and food on each side, a pond with an overflow pipe that's got water flowing in it, hopefully, and then just natural coon runs next to crop fields.
What's kind of your go-to to bait those traps? I know for me, I like those little mini marshmallows. They tend to work pretty good for me, but
Yep,
curious what you do.
I've had good luck with the marshmallows. There's probably five different things out there that are really good. For me and running so many traps for Wade and I, we'll take like a gallon milk jug and fill it halfway full with dry cat food. And then if you go to Walmart or fishing store and there's like a red dye that's for catfish bait, it's like smells fishy and it's for, putting on catfish bait. I'll pour that full bottle into that half bag of cat food and that just soaks up. And so when we go to each trap, you just dump a little, call it 10 pieces of cat food right in the bottom of that trap. And what that fish oil does, that catfish bait does, is it creates a little bit stickier content on that cat food. One, gives it a smell, and two, it makes it a lot harder for those mice to dip that out of the trap because it kind of all sticks together. So that's what I've been running lately and Wade as well. And it's been working really good. I mean, we still have a little bit of mouse issues, but not near what we had when we were just using dry cat food. And I don't know, do the mice yank those marshmallows out of there?
I've never really had problems with mice or anything
That's good.
messing with my traps.
We've actually not this year, but last year we actually caught a few mice in the dog proof traps. Like they would get down there far enough to pull the dog of the trap and they would be stuck in a dog proof.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've never had a problem.
I could send you a photo of one of them.
Yeah, if you would, that'd be pretty neat to see. Which, I mean, I don't know how many traps do you normally run?
Um, Somewhere around 20. If we're gonna hunt a tournament, we'll bump that number up. We'll have between Wade and I, we'll have 50 plus out. But him and I are normally about 20 traps each, scattered amongst different farms. So
So they have like a coon trapping tournament then, or a
yeah, they do. It's you can shoot them or trap them. It's pretty much just a coon, roundup is what they call it. And it's nice. The local farm bureau office put it on, and it was, I think $150 in there for a 4-man team or something, and it gives some people an incentive to get out there because in today's world, there's very little money in trapping, for what you're putting your time in and gas and everything. 22 bullets even nowadays aren't cheap. Um, so it was fun. We killed, I think, 78 coons in about a 16-hour period. Between we had 50 to 60 traps pounded in the ground, and then we hunted all night. So yeah, we got third. There was a group of boys that showed up with I don't know, 100 and it was 150 or 160 coons. They had a trailer full of them.
Them boys are
And
putting in the
then
work.
second place was 120 something, and then we were third at 78. So, but it was fun. It was great. I think there could be more, whether it's an outdoor alliance or farm bureau or whatever the case may be, but I think there's a lot of other states and places that are doing it, and that's great. Give guys an incentive to go out one night and kill a bunch of predators and maybe win a little money. So
Have you ever called coon, try calling them during the day?
we I've talked about it and I've honestly never done it. I did it back when I was younger and it was fun. I need to do it up here where we've got some big creeks and some good, habitat to do it on.
I was just curious because I always wondered because I love doing it.
Yeah.
I love setting a call up and just go find them den trees and just run the creeks and shotgun them. But with the habitat you guys have up there, I've just always thought like, man, I bet it'd be a blast to do it up there.
We need to go do it one day. We just haven't. We spend a decent amount of time night hunting, so that's probably why we don't, but it would be fun to just go do one day.
So when you're night hunting raccoon, are you doing that along with coyote hunting then, or
Typically, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we get to a spot and we might do a coyote set and if it's no good or blown set and we see a bunch of coons, we'll switch over and we've called them in that way quite a few times. So
that's what I started doing. Guy Bill I hunt with, we get done making a coyote stand because a lot of times you rip off a howl or something, you'll watch the tree line just light up with them.
oh yeah.
Nothing comes after 10 or 12 minutes. It's like, well, let's go shoot some coons. But
Yeah, definitely.
how what was that last week? You guys were in a coyote tournament. I seen,
Yeah,
right?
we did. Yeah. I actually well, Wade and I seen about it on Facebook. It was at a little local bar to the east of us about an hour. And we chatted about it and thought, I don't know if we're going to hunt it because I had actually sold a scope off my gun. So I was scopeless at the time, but I had won a scope in a drawing. And so I had one in the mail coming to me, and Wade come to work that, I don't know, 2 days later, he goes, hey, I signed this up, so we're going to hunt it. So I had to throw a scope on my gun and get it dialed in. But yeah, we had a way off for third and fourth. We got they beat us by the weight, so we actually got fourth in the tournament. But it was fun. Me, Wade, and a good buddy Christian, who's a local cop, hunted together, and we started off rough. We had 6 or 7 blank stands, and we just couldn't figure out what they wanted. I figured they'd be hard on breeding sounds because of the time of year right now, and I think I played every howl and breeding war and whimper and whatever you can come up with on the breeding side. I played it for them, and we couldn't call a coyote, and they'd howl at us and they'd just stay put. And so we switched over to some distress, and we started killing coyotes, and we run it all night. We watched the sun come up and ended up killing 7 and a bobcat. So it was a fun night.
Yeah, you look like in that picture, it looked like you had a couple big ones in there. It looked like, anyways.
There was a couple pretty good dogs. They were, I don't know, 33 to 35 or sorry, 23 to 25 pounds. Pretty normal coyotes. We didn't really kill anything big. I think tournament big that on that tournament was 37, which is a big coyote. So,
So, what's your average coyote weight up in that area then?
oh man, we've certainly killed some big coyotes that are pushing that 40 mark, and then yeah, I would say average is probably 30.
Wow, I'd impress because that seems like because I'd say our average coyote size for me is probably that 34 to 5
Yeah, we
pound
had,
range.
like I said, we had a bunch right there that were like 25 to 35 in that range. Um, we had a bunch of 32s and 33s, if I remember correctly. But I would, you know, I don't know. We've killed some little bitty coyotes and we've killed some real big ones. So it's kind of a wide range up here. I would say that 30 mark's pretty average. But
Would you say your coyote density is pretty thick where you're at, or
we've got a lot of coyotes. Yep. The key is, in my opinion, up here, um, there's not a whole lot of thermal hunting pressure. It seems like though when they get in big groups up here, you'll hear a coyote three, four in a group. They don't. I don't know if I'm not playing the right sounds because I'm no pro at this. This thermal hunting game's a learning curve, and it's kind of like turkey hunting for me. Like some nights the coyotes do really good and they respond well and they come, just like some days turkeys just call a lot better than others. But when they get in big groups up here, they seem like they're hard to deal with, kind of like dealing with a big flock of turkeys. They've got everything they need. They don't care about what you're saying to them. They're just kind of doing their own thing. So that's something we've dealt with. We might go out. I go right here by the house and I get a big group of coyotes to howl at me and they don't ever budge. I'll be there 20 minutes in a sit and they'll howl back again and they'll be in the same spot. So
Now, if you notice that, do you do much day hunting with them up
we
there?
don't. No, we don't do a whole lot of day hunting. Not since I've got into the night hunting game. I certainly talk about going and doing it just like we talked about coon calling. It's just finding the time to do it.
Right. I was just curious if because I know I have a few spots around me that I've noticed are a lot more productive day hunting than they are night hunting. Like I can
That's
go in at
interesting.
night with a thermal, kind of like a similar scenario you're saying. You'll hear them or see them out there 5, 6, 800 yards, and they just won't ever commit at night. But I can go in there, first light or middle of the day, even some of them more remote spots, and bring them right in.
Huh. That is interesting.
Now
I
I don't.
grew up I grew up back in Southern Illinois. That's all we knew was day hunting because, the night hunting game wasn't big, and then once I got in the middle of high school there, lights came out and you could put a light on your scope and that was kind of the red light thing and I got real big into that. And so when I was blessed enough to start night hunting, day hunting was like old news to me. I had done it so much growing up and back in the back in those times it was like I want to do night hunting because it was the new thing or so and now thermals are just it's crazy what you can go do. So
Oh, it's a game changer, I think,
yes.
especially now. Like, I mean, the scope I run's 3 years old, and hell, I don't even like looking through it anymore compared to some of these brand new ones. Like,
Yep.
it's crazy just how clear they
It
are.
is. Yeah, I sold a unit that I had that was 5 years old, and I got it like right when kind of thermal hunting become a thing, and it was great. I've killed pile of coyotes with it and never had an issue, and I just um, sold it, and I'm building a whole new setup right now. I'm going to go with a new thermal, and I actually ended up winning a drawing that was a brand new another I had a 384 sensor unit and I the one that I won is a brand new 384 sensor unit, but just the difference between those two from you know that 5-year-old unit to this brand new unit, which is same resolution but just the technology and the clarity that they've upgraded is just it's crazy.
Yeah, I like my 640 unit I have now. It looks, you look through a brand new one of those 384s now. It's like
Yeah,
it's 640. I paid freaking 7 grand for 3 years ago. It looks just as good as a $2,500 384 now.
exactly.
Yeah, but man, it's just part of the game, I guess. Like big screen TVs, they'll get
Oh
you all the
yeah.
time.
Yep. For
So,
sure. It's all technology. Some of it's great and some of it's like, I don't know about that.
what rifle you running that on? What round?
I'm running a 243. When I first started thermal hunting, I got two good buddies back home that um, are just dedicated to it. They got a team and they hunt every tournament they can find and they're just really educated and I've learned a lot from those guys. And they told me from the beginning, they said never put your thermal gun on a 223 because they had been through that issue with. I mean, it kills coyotes, no problem. Don't get me wrong. It's especially if you're hunting a tournament, you want them to drop, get the coyote on to the next spot. And 223s, fine. It's going to kill the coyote, no problem. But you're probably going to have a 30, 40 yard blood trail. dealing with runners. And so when I first started ever thermal hunting, I put it on an AR-10 in 308. And it was a little bit of recoil, but I tell you what, every coyote I killed or hit, they was dead right there. And then I built my own AR-10 in a 243, and I'm going to build now a bolt gun in 243. So,
What's the purpose? Just to have a bolt gun, or you think they're
I'm
advanced?
gonna I'd like to be able to shoot confidently a little bit farther. I only got a 20-inch barrel on my AR, and just ARs in general, in my opinion, and they just don't hold the accuracy to a bolt gun does. It's a 300-yard gun, no problem. But new scopes, longer distance, laser rangefinder, ballistic calculator, we're gonna stretch it out. So I got a new build coming down the pipe, so we'll uh we'll see how it does.
What grain bullets you shooting now? That 243.
Right now I shoot a 55 grain Winchester silver tip. That's smoking. I'm gonna go to an 85 or 95 out of the bolt gun. So I'll see what my barrel that I'm having built likes, and we'll go from there.
What's the purpose of going for a heavier grain out of the bolt gun?
I would say knockdown power. That 55 is pretty fur friendly if you stay off shoulders, center bone here. It's pretty fur friendly. I shot a bobcat with it on that tournament, and I'm actually having it tanned and put up because it was a pretty nice cat. I would say for those 85s and 95s is just pure to gain a little foot-pounds energy, a little bit more whop to them. Like I said, this is all I'm building the gun designed for hunting a tournament, because I want the best knockdown I can have so that the coyote's laying right there and run out there and get it and on to the next spot. Because the name of the game of the tournament is time. You always run out of time. So,
Right, and that's
um,
that's why I switched, which I run the 6.5,
yep.
but the running that 95 grain VMAX. But I ran a 22 250 for years. Daytime never had a problem. Then at night, it's kind of like I feel it's like that 223. You know, I
Hmm.
I knew a lot of guys that run to or used to run 223s, and now they're all going up to that heavier. Because with which I mean, as good as these thermals are getting now, I mean, I think you can be a little bit more precise, but it seems like with the thermal, you're never hitting quite exactly where you're wanting to. And
Yeah, for
tournaments,
sure. Yeah.
tournaments are
Um,
a big thing for me, and you need
yeah,
bodies.
Wade just went to 6.5 Creedmoor, and he's running 95 grain Varmint X from Winchester. And they did it. That was the first time he hunted with it, was this tournament. And they did great. I will say they are not fur friendly, but coyotes laying right where it got hit. So that's the key. There's so many rounds out there today, whether you're, you know, 243, 6R, 22 Creed, 6.5. I mean, there's so many good options nowadays that, I don't know why anyone would be shooting a 223 still, honestly. There's just too many good options out there that are going to do a lot better performance wise. So,
Yeah, I mean, especially going back to if you want to hunt in a lot of tournaments, that's what you need the coyotes, like you were saying. I mean,
yeah.
and really, I know around me, coyotes aren't worth nothing. The fur's worth nothing. I mean, they're paying more for the skulls than they are the fur. So as long as you're not making headshots, what's it really matter?
Yeah, for sure. And that's the only reason. Um, and I honestly just ought to sight in a reticle on my new thermal and put it on my 17 to go out to call cats, because realistically, I don't need to be shooting them with my current or my new setup that I'm going to build anyways. So, because we've got some pretty nice cats up here in Iowa. Not amazing cats, but we've got some good ones, and I just hate putting monstrous holes in them. So,
Do you see I mean, when you're out calling coyotes, you calling in very many cats?
yeah. pretty frequently. Kind of depends on the stand. I mean, obviously we'll get into some big field country with just big tree lines for coyotes up here, but we'll also be in a, 1 acre field. You can only shoot 100 yards. It's real close to cover, and we'll see some cats. The key there is to spend a little bit more time on your stand. If you want to shoot a bobcat, they require a lot more than that 20-30 minute mark. You might be there for an hour. Um, and solely, on distress sounds. The bobcat we just killed during the tournament come to bird distress. So I don't, but I've seen both scenarios where like I start a sit out with coyote vocalization and then switch to distress at the end, towards the end of the sit, and a cat comes in. So I don't know that that affects them, the howls and everything at the front end. But if you're going to go do some bobcat stands, which I have done before around here, all distress sounds, and you got to spend some time because I've seen them just stand in one spot for 10 minutes before they decide to walk another 50 yards.
How long do you typically stay on a coyote stand then?
Oh, during a tournament, be 15 minutes. We're turning and burning. If I'm out fun hunting, I'll give it 20 to 30.
Yeah,
So,
that's generally how I mean, I'd say my stands are the same either way, but without the pressure of a tournament, sometimes it's a little funner just to mess with them, sit back, see if you can get.
yeah, we're blessed to have a lot of farms, and then we gain a lot of permission for hunting coyotes up here. So we'll have 30 to 40 sets mapped out for a night. So if they're not playing the game in a spot, or we don't have some kind of action, they don't howl back, or we don't see anything in the distance, coming or leaving or whatever, um, we'll just we'll roll 15 minutes hits, new spot. So
And that's the name of the game if you want to put numbers up in a tournament.
yep, you got to kill the coyotes that are responsive. So it's turn and burn, and hopefully you hit them good because you ain't gonna be no track jobs.
Right. I know I've done quite a few tournaments, and that always kind of becomes the common factor between guys that have, you know, 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 coyotes in the back of their truck and the guys that have one or two. It's, that access to property. But on top of it, you're only spending that 10, 12 minutes on stand and you're just burning through them, just one right after another.
Yep. And and I mean, when you're hunting a tournament, you gotta have two or three guys on your team that are confident shooters. Like, you got a coyote come in, you've got to make those shots because, like, my buddy Chris, who I talk to all the time in Southern Illinois, he'll tell you if you kill every coyote you see within 300 yards, you'll do well in a tournament. And I don't know how many times that's to the T. I mean, you've got to make your shots, and you got to have that rifle round that when you hit the coyote, it's right there.
Yeah, he's exactly right. I don't know how many tournaments that I've sat back and looked on when they're over and you've lost by one or two or three. You can always think of through the night and been like, you got to capitalize on those opportunities
Yep.
because it never fails. I tell Bill every time, we, don't capitalize on two or three coyotes, you can about know that, well, we're probably going to lose, and we're probably going to lose by those two or three.
Yep. The tournament we just hunted, we had a double come in. We killed a double, and the next set we had another double come in, and the coyotes wouldn't stop at the same time. I'd bark or howl at him, and Wade's coyote he was on was hung tight. Ours was running circles, doing whatever, and we never. I told Wade, I said, if you got that coyote dead to rights, just kill him, and then we'll try and play catch up with this one. And we never caught up to him, and we sent a few rounds down range at him, and never caught up to it. And then we walked into a set, and I was putting the collar out, and I pulled my scanner up to look, and there was a coyote standing at 200 yards watching us walk into a set. And those two coyotes would have put us in 100% third place. So, um,
Right. Yeah, that's
no,
always tough to look back on.
you always look back on the one or two you miss, like you said, those are going to be the ones that put you in a losing spot.
Yeah, especially when you're hunting those, numbers tournaments, most coyotes, those, when you're hunting which are the popular around me now. I don't know how it is out there, but like big three, big five, or whatever by weights, that's just more of a gamble,
Yep.
but when you're doing numbers, you got to capitalize. You ain't got no choice.
Yeah, for sure. I've never hunted a big three or big five. I've always hunted most coyotes tournaments. So those would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, what's fun about it is even if you're having an off night, or what I consider an off night for a tournament, if you're only killing five, or three, you're still in the money,
Yeah,
and it makes it kind of fair for everybody across the board. So I kind of see it, but
for sure.
at the same time, I don't know, kind of the old school mentality in me is like, well, you're not really the best if you're not calling the most.
Yeah, for sure. I
But
mean, those most coyotes, I mean, I've seen some huge numbers put up in a night. Um, but if you can go kill, I always say, if you can get close to double digits, 8 to 10 coyotes there in a night, you're gonna do well. That's a stacked night. So
yeah, that's which I got into hunting a bunch online tournaments. And you're those Facebook tournaments, so you're hunting with
yep,
guys across this country.
yep,
And those most coyotes, you know, for us around here, if you're putting, like you were saying, that double digits, if you hit that 10, 12, 15 mark, you're probably in the money. But, those guys in those more, I guess, Western states, West Texas or
oh yeah,
New Mexico area, I've seen them boys put up 30 by themselves.
yep,
One man show put up 30 in a night.
yeah. It's I mean, coyote densities, habitat they get to hunt in, and ground accessibility down some of those western states. You go from Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas. You start getting over that way. There's just more coyotes, in my opinion, and a little bit of door knocking goes a long way. I think you get a few big ranches, um, you can put some numbers up.
Yeah, I remember seeing a video from a guy. I think he killed like I think it was like 8 or 9 on the same stand within an hour,
Yeah,
sitting up there suppressed with a thermal. He was sitting in a cattle up on a little knoll in a cattle lot.
yeah,
Call sitting in front of him. He just kept bringing them in. Just and plus you can shoot for. I mean, out there, hell, there's no. You don't have fence rows and woodlots you're worried about.
yeah, for sure. Our It's kind of weird. Our terrain up here, like I've got some spots we could go stand on a tree line and shoot. You know, five, five as far as you can shoot. You could try. And then we got some spots where we might be in a food plot that's half acre, and you'd be lucky to stretch at 100. So it's kind of a diverse area up here.
And that probably affects, your, I guess, through the course of the night, your call, your strategy.
For sure. I mean, if we get into some of that open stuff, or if it's real windy for some reason or whatever, and coyotes ain't traveling very far, we'll be like, well, we need to get into some tighter sits, and those food plot areas or smaller fields next to big timber or big cover, those typically produce when big country's not.
Will you change up your calling when you get in those tighter areas?
Certainly, probably probably stick to distress if we're in tight somewhere. I might start with a lone howl of some sort. Um, Keep the volume obviously way down, but and then kind of hard switch right into distress and see what happens. But breeding sounds this year have been tough for me. Um, Last year, I had a period up here, week or two period where you know all the breeding sounds were working. If you heard a pair howl back, you challenged, or whatever it might have been the sequence, but the breeding sounds were on fire. But this year, I haven't hit that. I haven't hit that spot where they worked really, really good.
Yeah, I've never really done much in the breeding sounds. Like most I'll do is I'll hit a howl,
Mm-hmm.
and then if they howl back, I might give them a little more, but it seems like more than anything, it's this time right now, prey distress is just
Yep.
what I'm hammering them on.
I mean, I had probably 2 years ago, I had a night I hunted by myself and I killed 7 coyotes solo. I never played a distress sound, not one through the night. Never played one. So like that, that was right there on February, like Valentine's Day, right in the heart of it, they always say. Um, but yeah, they were on breeding sounds like nobody's business. But the other night during the tournament, we had to switch over. Distress was the only thing they were doing it on. So,
And that's key when they're not.
yep, you gotta. There's it's so we could go tomorrow night and we kill every coyote on lone howls or some kind of breeding sound, and we could go the following night and they'd never come to that. We'd have to be on distress. Like it's so crazy the trigger that they have on different sounds, different nights.
Yeah, I keep waiting to figure out. Like I know I've tried. I used to keep that book, from 5 years ago, 4 years ago. Every night I'd go out. And by the time I'd think like, okay, this is what, when this is like this and everything's happening, this is what that's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
then you get your butt whooped and get humbled. So I learned with coyotes, it's nothing like deer. It's nothing like that. You just take that, you throw it out the window, you go out, you
100%.
call.
100%. I went back and looked at my phone 2 years ago on that night that I had that I killed 7 solo, and because I hunted like this year I hunted like maybe like the 16th of February, and I was like, oh, they're gonna be hard on breeding sounds. Like that night was the 13th or the 12th that I hunted and killed 7 coyotes by myself on nothing but breeding sounds. I never played one distress sound the whole night. And I was like, this is gonna be the night that they're gonna do that again. Nope.
Yeah.
I was out.
Yeah. It just switches on a dime for you. And it's like, well, what the hell? Did I miss it?
Yep.
Was I off a day or two?
Yeah, I think I went out that night and did 4 or 5 stands on breeding, and we never killed a coyote. And I switched to distress, later in the night, and we might have killed one, maybe two, So it's crazy that everybody out there, whatever they do in life, whether you're a plumber or electrician or, whatever your occupation is, you become very good at that skill and you can about narrow down exactly what you need to do on a job. Well, the person out there that can narrow down exactly what coyote call we need to sound off every night, please let me know.
Oh, you're exactly right. I've been amazed at people that have, messaged me or whatever. What sounds you using? What's working now? And it's like, dude, if I knew that, I I wouldn't be a concrete laborer and
There you
a
go.
beginning podcaster. Like I'd be
There you
rich and
go.
you know,
Yep.
like
I
I
have
don't think
people
anybody knows.
I have people do the same thing, and I'll give them, a recommendation on what to start with and a few sounds to try out. But it's the same way. It's like, I your guess is as good as mine. That might have worked last night, but tonight it's not going to.
Right. Yeah. Cause then I feel like I don't want to be the jackass, or look, tell you like, oh man, 100%, this is what's working. And then you go
Yeah.
out and it doesn't work.
Yep.
No, I mean, and then I just really think as long as you got the wind right and they don't see you coming in, I mean, it's either, I mean, I think I did that one with Jeff Nimnick, and that's what he was saying. Not all of them are callable anyways,
Correct.
and I do believe that because I know there's been multiple times I'm sure maybe you've run into that to where you'll, make a stand. You might see him come ripping out of the woods at 300 yards and then sit down knowing that they can't smell you and can't see you or didn't see you. And they'll just hang out there. Doesn't matter what you throw at them. You throw the whole sound library at them, they'll just sit there.
Yep. I've been on sets in a bigger field, scenario where I can see a long ways, and it might be 500 plus yards across the way in a tree line. It happened to me this year. I was calling. I'd actually switched over to try to calling some bobcats because I was in a spot where there's a lot of cats. There was a big thicket to my right-hand side and a small field, and to my left was a huge tillable field with a tree line. And these two coyotes have been running around, chasing each other, messing around, walking around, jumping on mice out in the field, and they heard every call I played, and they never came an inch closer to me. It was just like their bellies were full, they had what they wanted, and they didn't care. They were just living life out there. I just happened to be looking at them.
Yeah, I had a, it's kind of a crazy encounter this year. We watched one chase a rabbit, but we were on stand for, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes, 10 minutes maybe. I've kind of went through a howl and, I think I played a prey distress, nothing, and went to like a putt fight. And I just seen this coyote just pop up over the hill, but it was just like mousing. I'm like, he doesn't care about my calls. I'm kind of turned the volume up watching him. And then he goes out and he lays down. I'm like, well, this is awkward. And then Brandon's like, hey, man, this is another coyote. And I look over and I'm like, no, it's a rabbit hopping out there. And I keep looking back and forth. You see that coyote. This rabbit's 7,500 yards from this coyote. It's pitch black at night. And you can see him pick his head up looking that way. I'm like, man, I think he sees that rabbit or he smells or something. And then he just takes, and the whole time I'm playing pup distress at a pup fight. And then he just takes off, runs over, chases that rabbit, ends up catching that rabbit.
I would bet he had the wind on that rabbit. I would have bet had to have. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing what one day to the next the triggers that, and just overall movement. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but like up here, north winds, really cold temperatures, high pressure, I'm probably not going. But if it's a warm up day after a bunch of cold that we've had, it might get up to 32 or whatever, it might get in the 30s. We get some south winds or a wind change of some sort, preferably south. And pressure doesn't have to be high. Typically dropping pressure, kind of consistent pressure, those are just the better nights for us. Just better overall interactive with predators in general. I don't care, coyotes especially, but coons as well. Our traps will be better filled those next mornings after those types of nights than on that cold, nasty type of weather.
I've somewhat noticed that to where when the pressure gets up, like a couple weeks ago, we had a stretch where that pressure was like 30.5.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy high. And I couldn't see a coyote to save my ass. And I was thinking a couple of those nights, it was like crystal clear, like that 5 mile an hour, like northwest wind. That pressure was real high, but it's like, man, those are the nights it feels like, oh man, like something should happen. Like this
It
is,
does. It's like it's beautiful out here, like you said, crystal clear, just a beautiful night. And I don't know why, but they certainly up here, they just don't do it as well.
have you noticed as far as movement, like for when there's a full moon night?
I don't know if I've paid attention to the moon as much as I should have. As far as movement goes, what I if somebody's out there getting into coyote hunting, what I can tell you, when it's a full moon or a well lit night, you better put some back cover between yourself and behind you because they will come out and they will silhouette you, and it's they're gone.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's
But I need to pay attention to the moon more on nights we do well and kill coyotes versus nights we don't. Um,
I
like
really haven't noticed as far as just, you know, more or less myself being being in thicker cover on them
yeah,
full moon nights. I think there is something to do with the pressure, like you pointed out. That's about the only thing I can say through my history of notes that is kind of have you see some similarities is
yeah,
when you have a more even mid pressure, what I would
mid
consider.
pressure, even a falling pressure, like with a rain system coming in a few days or stuff like that. It's just, I don't know why, but those are the nights you see a coon or possum run across the road. You see that skunk running down the ditch. You call in a few coyotes. Like, I don't know if it's because, and this is all shot in the dark for me, but I don't know if it's because that's when prey is out. Like, that's when the mice are moving the most. That's when they're out feeding. It's when rabbits are out too. Or if it's just naturally when they move the most is on those weather fronts. But
Yeah, that's in like I probably should do a better job of I shouldn't have never quit doing it because it's one of those things. It's like I started doing it for few years and then it
yeah,
was I just got ticked off because it was like I couldn't, by the time you would start seeing something, then it just get debunked and it's like, well, this is just a waste of time. But
yeah. And
I'm sure there's something in there.
I always dive on a deer cast and, look at the prediction, because I want to hunt that south wind day that all this cold's gone. So like inside there, I can see, pressure, what it's doing through the week. And I can see, how cloudy it's going to be out, the moon phase and all that. So I really just need to be what I'm going to start doing now that we just talked about this is I'm going to screenshot a full year through trapping and predator hunting the days that we did real good, or had the most success, and try to iron some of that stuff out. If it's ironable, we'll see if there's
Right.
correlation or not.
Yeah, because I mean I'm a huge fan of deer cast when it comes to kite, just for the fact of when I started using that to schedule out like on our tournaments, like for
Oh
those
yeah,
full moon nights, because with the hourly seeing the cloud cover and just watching all that, and you can scan through and then start laying out all your spots like, okay, hey, the moon's going to be falling here. We don't have to worry about it. Or, we're going to have 80% cloud cover starting at 3 a.m. So we don't have to worry about the full moon or vice versa. Like that. And there was something which, I mean, your boss man will be able to help you out on this, but I do know that somewhere in there, when those nights it says, at least for my area, when it says okay to like not even good, just like that okay, not really bad, but like that in between, those are the nights that I think I put up the most coyotes.
I'll have to ask him when the
Now, what it is in that algorithm, I don't
right.
know. That makes it there,
I wonder if it's not pressure.
and it could be.
I
But
know
I mean,
pressure's a I know pressure's a big part of that algorithm. I mean, everything's a big part of it, but certain things, weigh certain percentages. But I would almost bet that it's got something to do with that pressure.
because when you go through on the hourly, and then it's like the bars become yellow, and it's
Yep.
two, but it's between midnight and 3 a.m. And they might go from light green to yellow, back up to green or to red. But when it's in that yellow phase, I can almost guarantee I'm gonna get on the coyotes. Like
Hmm.
that's about, but I've never been able to like, you know, really die because I don't know what's in the algorithm. So it's like,
Yeah.
what makes it say that? It could be a combination of, their
It's
13 variations. Like, I
it's
don't know.
certainly a combination of something. Um, I can I'll find that out.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing I've noticed because I've literally like for, I don't know. I mean, I've had deer cast since it's about came out, I think 6 years,
Yep.
7 years now. And it was, I think, a year or two after when I started using it for the predator side, like thinking like, oh man, there could be something here. Like, and then you start looking, just messing with it. Like, I don't know, kind of geek out over that stuff. And like, and I started thinking that's like, oh wow, okay. Well, not saying that that's foolproof. Like, I'm
No.
sure there was times I didn't kill nothing, but when everything's lining up on a night and you see, and I see that, it could be just giving me that warm feeling too. I don't know, but like there's something there though. Like I agree with the pressure and that like something does happen where
Yeah.
they're more active.
That tournament, and I'm kind of I'll call myself lazy in the aspect. Like if a tournament comes up and we look out, 4 or 5 days of deer cast and it says, it's going to be high of 10 degrees with a north wind at 10. And, I'm like, I'm probably not hunting that tournament because I know that, especially up here, they just don't do as good. Um, and people call me lazy if they want to. That's just the blame of it. I'm not going to go out there and I've hunted a few tournaments in negative degree temperatures, and it's just like, you get to set number 10 and you can't even feel your trigger finger. You're like, I don't know why I'm out here right now for a dang coyote.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned that a couple of years ago of just kind of going that more quality over quantity. Like,
Yep. Yep.
I still hunt 3, 4, 5 nights a week, but come a tournament time, if I'm gonna get into the money, I guess I'm looking for those windows and those tournaments to where, all right, I'm not gonna go out here and freeze my ass off. That's not.
Yeah. You're looking for that yellow on deer cast. I got to pay attention to that now.
I'm telling you, there's something there. I don't know what. Like I said, it's definitely worth looking into
Yeah,
because
for sure. No, there's definitely, like we talked about before, there's no bulletproof sound, there's no bulletproof time, there's no bulletproof, anything when it comes to predators, really, in my opinion. But there's definitely some correlation to a few things that could help you, or make your odds a little better. So,
yeah, I mean, there's something there. Well, I'll wrap it up here. I appreciate you jumping
oh,
on
yeah,
with me.
no problem.
And anybody wants to check out your your trapping, or that's over on Deercast or on
Uh,
Drury's
there'll be
YouTube
some
or
articles on Deercast about that stuff. Well, actually, it might come out this week. We've got a first ever thermal episode for coyotes. Just a quick, me and Wade go out and kill 3 coyotes on a night and had a good, fun evening. And then yeah, all the trapping videos are over on Drury stuff. So yeah, check us out over there. Deercaster YouTube, you can watch all that stuff. And we might have another, if the weather gets good, I'm going to run another week of traps. So we might have 2 episodes for trapping. I know there's for sure one coming out. And like I said, one thermal episode. So hopefully, next year we'll film a few more of those and bring you more of that information and what we're up to predator wise on the farms. So,
all right, Perry. I really appreciate it, man.
yep, anytime, buddy. Good
All right,
talking to you.
you too. Everybody go out, shoot your guns, make sure you're shooting straight. See ya.